It was a warm summer night. The soft fragrance of 4 o'clocks and water lilies flowing into my room with the calm breeze, along with the soothing sound of tranquil waters. I sat by the open window, working at the sewing machine, the slow trance rocking my body back and forth, causing my hair to fall and wave over my face. I was making another beautiful dress for my dear Amanda. Lace, silk, and ribbons. Black, red, and pink, along with matching stockings and a pair of pretty red patent leather heels. It had to be perfect, as everything I made for her, as perfect as I made her, because she was perfect. Long gray hair cascaded over her shoulders and down her back to the narrow hips. Big and bright purple eyes would glance at me with curiosity as I worked another doll or a new piece of clothing for her. Those lips, thick and plush, that she would paint red and purple and blue. A thin and delicate nose, like the jewel of a crown. Her skin, pale and smooth to the touch, flawless. Her entire figure was lean. Long legs, always wrapped in a beautiful lace stockings up to her thighs. She had dainty long hands with round, always sparkling fingernails. She was my little doll. She was my precious lover. She was like my daughter. I taught her how to sew and to embroider. I taught her how to dance and to skip and jump. Everything she learned from me. She did it better, and I loved her for that. As I worked on her new outfit, I heard the small bed creaking under her little frame and smiled, knowing she would walk towards me and stand by my side. Her hands clasped at her back, her head leaning to the side. Silently, she would watch me work until boredom, and then she would wrap her arms around my shoulders and whisper sweet words into my ear. I glanced in her direction to see her open her eyes, but as she woke up and looked at me, I saw something in those bright violet marbles that froze my soul. A malicious hint of her gaze and a wicked smile on her lips. I didn't know what had changed. I didn't understand what was going on. But I knew that wasn't her. That wasn't my Amanda. She never looked at me like that. She had never shown rage or anger or even sadness in those precious features of hers. She crawled out of bed, and I could hear her joints cracking underneath the skin, and my own heart thudded inside my head. Her movements were quick. It almost seemed as if her limbs would fall apart as arms and legs advanced across the room, dragging her body towards me. Her mouth deformed in that evil grimace that only seemed to grow unnaturally wider, and from where a horrific racket was released. I heard my own terrified whimpers, unable to look away as she came closer, pulled up to her feet by an invisible force. She lunged towards me, arms extended, hands made of claws aiming to my neck. I just sat there, my eyelids going wide. I tried to speak, but fear didn't let me. What's wrong? What did I do to you? I wanted to ask her. I needed to know what had happened to my lovely Amanda, and if there was anything left of her inside that demonic creature. As she reached out to me, I barely responded by bringing my hands up, stopping her, grunting as she wrapped those fingers around my wrist, trying to bend me. Her grip was so strong, and it wasn't natural. She hadn't been built like this, but something was giving her incredible strength. She pushed harder, growling, tightening her grasp. I cried, looking up at a pair of unrecognizable beacons. Gathering the strength I needed to fight her back, I managed to get to my feet, pushing myself up to trembling legs. But there was no way for me to escape the doll's incredibly powerful hands, until she let go of one of my wrists to try and reach for my neck. I pulled myself back, trying to dodge her, and in my struggle, I kicked her. Guilt immediately taking over me as strongly as panic did. My heart ached, and I wanted to cry more, still worrying about her while I watched her stumble backwards. The being controlling my lovely doll growled, getting to a straight position, looking almost like Amanda as her irises fixed on me once more. I gave a step back, and another one, my chest heaving with my agitated breath. I turned around to run away when I felt her fingers clawing at my dress, and I yelled in terror, tears running down my cheeks as I pulled from my clothes and ran away, hearing how the fabric tore apart. I stumbled across the room and into the closet, hurrying to kick the door closed, and I pressed my back against the wall, hoping I could keep enough pressure onto the door for my feet to stop her. I dug my fingers into the pockets of my dress, and a frustrated cry cutting through my throat as I realized I didn't have my phone. I couldn't control myself, my whole shape trembling. I sobbed and I gasped in saddened pain. My mind blocked itself, refusing to believe that my own creation, my sweet and beautiful doll, had turned against me, wondering what was invading her empty frame, giving her real and terrible emotions. She called out for me on the other side, softly, as she slowly scratched the door with those freshly polished pink nails. And something else. There was one distinctive sound, harder and stronger. My whole self twitched at the realization that she had taken my scissors. I felt the sharp metallic tips digging into the wood, the sound seeming to fill the entire space around me. There was silence then, a long moment of unbearable quietness where I almost began to calm down, though I didn't dare to think that this was over. I heard quick steps, and I immediately knew what she was intending to do. I couldn't believe her strength as she hit the seemingly fragile form against the door. Once, twice, and the third time she completely wrecked the wood, stumbling upon me, scissors in hand, ready to attack, and it only took her an instant. I saw blood staining my dress before feeling the pain of those scissors inside my guts. Only that it was simple pain. It burned from the inside out, as if the blades had been put on fire. I brought my hands to the wound, applying pressure to try and stop the bleeding. She was cackling, insane wide hues fixed on the flowing crimson, slowly extending over the floor and down her fingers as she still clung to the cold steel. This is my luck, I thought while crying in pain and sorrow. I only wanted someone to love me, someone to miss me and greet me when I got home. I made myself this incredible gift, all my knowledge poured into her with all my love and care, and my hope to finally have someone at my side. But it seemed my life was bound to tragic and lonely existence. Ready to give up, I sat there, wheezing, hovering myself over as the pain took over in strong waves. My eyes slowly looked up, laying on my doll's now chaotic existence. She seemed so out of her mind, so oddly happy and, more than anything, distracted, as if she had forgotten me, or thought me dead already. I couldn't brook her sudden indifference. It was almost as painful as the wound she had inflicted on my flesh. Anger built up in me. I couldn't end up like this. I didn't want to die in a pool of my own blood. Looking around, searching for options and ideas to escape, my eyes stopped at the rod above my head, holding all those beautiful dresses. I groaned, gritting my teeth, and got to my feet, consuming most of my remaining energy, spilling more blood. I quickly threw all of my hangers to the floor and grabbed the wooden pole, grunting, forcing my being to advance as fast as possible, lifting my arms as I reached closer. I wasn't thinking. I knew that if I wanted to survive, I had to do it. So I only stood there for an instant and closed my eyes, yelling in both physical and spiritual pain as I brought my arms down with all my strength. Her head cracked, but she turned that thin neck toward me, an angered eye about to pop out of the small skull of hers, and her body struggled to respond. I looked away and hit again, and again, and I didn't stop until she wasn't moving anymore, until her frail hand loosened its grip around the scissors. I fell to my knees then, dropping the pole, crying blood and tears, feeling as broken on the inside as my lovely Amanda's body. I looked at her one more time, wiping the tears off my face, and sighed sadly as I saw her eyes, dead now, lacking that curious shine. What just moments ago was my masterpiece, now laid in pieces, and I was unable to mentally put those parts together to reconstruct her beautiful face. Her entire body was disjointed, only kept together by her night clothes. Leaning closer, I reached for her and made one last effort as I pulled her headless body into my lap. Smiling, I fixed her clothes and wrapped my weakened arms around her. Sighing, I closed my eyes at the sight of blood drooling down my mouth and tainting her white gown. Maybe tomorrow I could fix you,